Good morning, everybody. Excited to have you with us today. Welcome to this month's Product Sneak Peek webinar series. This is our quick Power Pack 15-minute pop-in series introducing you to innovative quality products and solutions for your food bank programs. Just a quick tour. On the right side of your screen, you'll see the chat window. We invite you to submit questions and comments here throughout the event. At the top of that chat tool, you'll notice a tab for handouts, where you can download the info sheet about culturally connected programs. And be sure to check out our poll feature as well at the top of that chat field there, off to the right. So check out these features throughout the event. Just a quick shout out and welcome to our regional reps, Janelle Monger and Chris Clark, who are in the audience today, and we'll help answer questions as we move through the webinar. My name is Missy Hunter. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Umoja Supply Chain Solutions, and my wonderful co-host of today's webinar is Hope.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hope Pasco. I'm a Regional Sales Manager covering the Southwest and Southeast at Umoja, and most importantly, I'm a former food banker.
Well, just a quick introduction for those of you who are joining us for the first time. Umoja is a minority-owned for-profit grocery, health, and logistics company with a social mission. Umoja means unity in Swahili, and we are united in the drive for equity and access to quality food and healthcare for all. We're fueled by our three core divisions: our Food for Health team that specializes in food as medicine and nutrition empowerment programs; our Hunger division, the team bringing you today's webinar, focuses on providing quality foods, box building, and food program support services to hunger relief organizations, food banks, and government agencies. And finally, our Logistics division, the backbone of our operations, makes everything we do possible. So we've got some exciting stuff to talk about today with cultural programs. Let's get into it.
Yes, so let's get this presentation started. So today we are going to talk about what are culturally connected foods, and we're going to use an example of some common foods and how they differ across different cultures. We're going to talk about how we go about building our cultural programs. We're going to introduce some sample menus that we've built, and we're going to most importantly talk about how we can customize our needs to fit your needs, our solutions to fit your needs.
Awesome. And I think it's always important. Like, I live in Fort Bend County, Texas, just southwest of Houston, and we're one of the top 5 most diverse counties in the country, which is just, it's incredible for so many different reasons. But it can also make these kinds of programs a little bit daunting to start. And so I always like to think about it. We've got just this one kind of a number of common foods across different cultural groups, but just the variety is so unique. And so you can look at that as like a core go-to item for any number of programs. Doesn't really matter per se, like what that cultural or ethnic group is you're looking to support. But rice is just such a beautiful example of that. From folks who originate from East Asian countries, with sticky rice and the Japanese sushi rices, to Southeast Asia, jasmine and biryani rices, and then you come, to South America with white and brown and yellow rices. And so it's just that kind of common shared experience that we think about with food, but there's just that unique aspect to it that we can tailor these programs to specifically provide the most common versions of rice as that staple ingredient for those folks. And that's something that you can see too is kind of like a quick tip in our handout sheet there as well that you can download during today's presentation. And I think too, just kind of to set the stage for this, culture is that set of shared customs and traditions and beliefs and practices, by a group. And some of that can change in subtle and sometimes major ways over time. But when we think about it, we're kind of, in terms of trying to identify a group that we want to support, we're kind of talking about ethnicity as a way to identify the group first, and then getting into culture and some of those differences across those groups. So getting into kind of how Umoja and our team supports our food bank customers in helping build these programs. Hope, kind of take us through a little bit of our process.
Yeah, so I think the biggest question we get is we identified that this is an issue, but we have no idea where to start. And so we've really laid out what we do. So we're going to work with you to identify the group that you're looking to serve and also their origin, because you're interested in serving people from Africa, but that is a whole continent. So you're going to need to really narrow down specifically what region to better help serve them. So we want to recognize that there are different cultural beliefs, values, customs, dignity in the type of product they're receiving. And ultimately, if we can help find the right foods, less waste. So you'll kind of see once we get a group identified, we're going to go take it a step further and look also at generation. We know that there is a difference between first generation and second generation groups and their blend of fully native foods and some Americanized versions. And so we want to make sure that we recognize those as well. Once we've gotten past that point, then we're going to look at a menu. As Missy said, there's lots of common foods, and it's really just about narrowing down in that what type of product specifically it is. So our menus are going to focus on proteins, grains, dry goods, vegetables, spices. Spices specifically is a great way to make sure that you're feeding the need of those that you're trying to serve. And then our final little touch is we want to make sure that language is specific, and also if you're doing any sort of educational material, it is working for those you are trying to serve.
And I think it's important too, if that first hang-up question, if that first challenge, and if you'll check out our poll tab there, we've got a question about this. What is that kind of primary barrier to starting these programs or getting these programs growing in your community? Is, some of it is just really being comfortable asking questions, understanding those different groups in your area. And there's some great resources for that. If you don't already know, there's, you can reach out to community leaders or representatives, church leaders even can be great in some of those areas. Again, in Fort Bend County, we have a really diverse area. And so there's resources like city councils and economic development councils, other nonprofits that specifically focus in those cultural groups to just really understand what they need.
Oh, it looks like Missy timed out. But yeah, we are very helpful. Oh, you're back.
Sorry about that connection, folks. But just to kind of recap that, it was just really that there's so many great resources to identifying those cultural groups in your area, those cultural groups, those ethnic groups, and then how to best serve them and provide foods that are really traditional and respectful of their customs. So with that, let's go ahead and head into some of these examples, Hope, that we've done.
Yeah, so first up, we have a traditional Mexican box, and then we're also going to have a Latin American box. So this could be great for a Guatemalan group or El Salvador.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. This is something that's kind of common. We see it a lot, like in the southern states in Texas, for example, where the idea is that if you're from Mexico or you're from a Latin American country, that automatically it's kind of that same profile of foods, and there's just some unique differences that you can start to become aware of as you're developing the programs for that cultural or ethnic group. Is, in Mexico, that's a spicier palate profile. It's higher on the heat level, very, very focused around beans, tomatoes, maize, beef kind of being a core number one meat product front. And then Latin America, slightly different with that. It's a lower spice level. It's more about herbs and different seasonings for flavor, yucca and plantains, pork and so forth. So those are just like small touches, but important ones to recognize the difference in how we're building these menus and these programs.
And so a couple more, we have designed a Hmong box for California and Minnesota that's highlighted here. Hmongs is an ethnic group that are primarily coming from Laos, Vietnam, and China. This is a great example of a very specific tailored box with popular unique juice, rice, and noodles. And you'll also notice some coconut milk.
I think too, like we worked with one of our food bank partners in Missouri. They wanted to develop a box. This is a little bit more American cultural, but around their African American community in their area. That's like that beautiful mix of greens, cultural vegetables, chicken, cornbread, just some of those real favorites. And then we've got refugee as well, which is a really interesting group. That's more of like that rapid response, right, Hope?
Yes, sometimes you're in need of a box immediately or some components, and we're here to help you get that fast turnaround to make sure that the clients you're trying to serve don't go a day without it. Yeah, and so we want to make sure, as we talked about, that your program meets your needs. So we work with suppliers and manufacturers across the country and internationally to source the unique products tailored for these specific programs. We can always mix culture boxes on a truck, so don't feel like you have to order a large amount if you're serving a smaller community. And we can make sure that if you're serving multiple communities, they're all being served on the same truck. And then we also want to make sure that you have some resources that I believe Missy is going to highlight. Here we have a map. So you might have been wondering what those states were next to some of our examples of boxes. Those are states that have either utilized that box and or maybe great fits for those boxes.
Absolutely. That's really where we've got just a unique ability to, if you're in Colorado and, or Nevada and you are serving similar populations of folks, that specific kind of an ethnic group, for example, we can work with you we can source those products and we can do that at that larger volume. And then we can help at smaller volumes, depending on what your need is from any one state on one side of the country to the other. And we can actually, like Hope was mentioning, we can add that to your mixed load. And so we've got the flexibility to help you serve these specific populations in addition to what you're doing with your larger programs and larger sourcing needs. But we can help to provide that diversity, responding to those different groups in different regions.
And as an added bonus for joining us today, we do have a 10% off your first order of cultural boxes, good through the end of the month. So tap us if you are interested in getting a box designed or looking components, and we would love to help find a solution.
Awesome. And we're excited. We're going to kind of open this up now for any questions, comments. Go ahead and submit those in the chat field off to your right of your screen. Just a quick reminder, we do have the poll with a few questions there about what your biggest roadblocks or barriers are and kind of where you are in the process of developing cultural programs. And don't forget to catch that handout as well before you head out for today. I think it's really, when we talk about this, Hope, we've worked with a number of food banks, and it's really interesting to just see how different that need is from any one part, again, of the country to another. And then where the similarities are. We have common conceptions about where people, are from in our area. But to see the different need and then to be able to share what we've learned from one community for a food bank partner, say in Texas, with another one in California, or like we talked about with that Mexican box that we developed, working on that for DC. So it's just that it's really interesting to see because we're just known as that melting pot, right? To see what the different need is in different areas around the country.
And I think there is definitely a question around funding for these types of programs. We know that it's a buzz program and lots of people want to get started, but they don't necessarily have the funding for it. And we want to be part of that option. So if you have a grant that you're looking at and just aren't sure what you should be doing to fulfill it, we want to work with you to help support that process.
Absolutely. And I think too, like we get a lot of common questions like, can you just get the components and various things like that? The answer to that is absolutely yes. So for those larger programs that you're going to run, if you are doing an in-house build, we can provide those components, but we can also provide if it's a smaller or a larger program, really any volume, we can provide that in more of a distribution ready format too. So just kind of keep those flexibilities in mind depending on what your need is. And make sure, because each of these are tailored, often very tailored to the need in the area, the ethnic group that you're looking to serve, is make sure to reach out to your Umoja rep. We can kind of walk you through that process and make sure to develop something specific to your very regional needs and the community you're serving. And we are at time. So just we want to thank everyone for your time today. We look forward to connecting with you and helping you serve the folks in your community, particularly by providing those the reflective foods for their cultures and their traditions and their customs. We have some really great products we'll be highlighting in our series this year. Next up, and the last to close out the year, is our sneak peek webinar on specialty pancake and baking mixes. That's going to be Wednesday, November 8th. So make sure to head on over to our website and sign up today. And then our Food for Health team in Umoja is hosting our 4th webinar in our Nourishing Black Communities series. That's coming up Wednesday, September 27th. So don't miss that either. Thanks, Hope. I appreciate your time today. I appreciate everyone joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.